The room was silent, heavy, thick with the weight of grief and disbelief. Mourners filled the hall, dressed in black, faces long and pale. The floral arrangements surrounded the casket like a fortress, their fragrance overpowering. And there I stood, frozen. My husband Daniel lay in that casket, a man I had loved for over 2 decades, a man who had been my world, my partner, my anchor. And now, he was gone. But that wasn't what had everyone whispering behind their hands. Number it was his final words, spoken just seconds before he took his last breath. Words that shattered my soul, words that changed everything. He had turned his head weakly, pointed straight at me and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Don't trust her." Then his body went still, and I, his wife Claire, was left standing there as every single eye in the room turned toward me. Daniel had been sick for months. It started with fatigue, then the back pain, and soon our days were filled with doctor visits, MRI scans, and whispered conversations in sterile hospital corridors. I never left his side, not once, even when I was bone-tired and our teenage daughter, Lily, begged me to come home and rest. I stayed with Daniel because he was my husband, my best friend, the father of my child. We had built a life together, and I would be there with him even if it was ending. But truthfully, things hadn't been perfect. They hadn't been for a while. Daniel had grown distant long before the diagnosis, secretive, paranoid even. He started locking his phone, whispering during calls, spending long hours at work with vague explanations. At first I chalked it up to stress, then I found the receipts, expensive gifts I never received, late-night charges at restaurants I'd never heard of, and worst of all, a single earring in his briefcase, small, silver, not mine. When I confronted him, he didn't yell, he didn't deny it, he just stared at me and said, "Let's not do this now." I wanted to scream, to throw things, but I didn't, because by then the cancer had already taken hold, and I wasn't sure what was worse, losing my husband physically or realizing I had already lost him emotionally. Lily, our daughter, adored her father. She was 16, smart, sensitive, and full of questions I didn't always know how to answer. She started noticing the tension, the silences between me and Daniel, the way I avoided eye contact when she asked why Dad didn't eat dinner with us anymore. I tried to shield her from the worst of it. But you can't hide the truth from a child forever, especially not Lily. One night as I tucked her in, she looked at me and asked, "Mom, are you and Dad okay?" I hesitated. "Things are hard right now," I said, "but we're a family, we'll get through it." She nodded, but I could see the doubt in her eyes. As Daniel's condition worsened, visitors poured in, friends, neighbors, his colleagues from the firm, and one woman I didn't recognize. Tall, elegant, mid-30s. Dark hair pulled into a perfect bun. She came with flowers, hugged Daniel a little too long, whispered something in his ear that made him nod with glassy eyes. I asked who she was. He mumbled, "An old friend." But the way she looked at me, with pity, almost contempt, made my stomach churn. Later, I asked one of the nurses. Her name was Vanessa. She'd been visiting often, usually when I stepped out for coffee or a shower. Something about it didn't sit right. But Daniel was slipping away, and I didn't have time to start a war. The week before his death, Daniel barely spoke. He drifted in and out of consciousness, hooked to machines, his breath shallow and raspy. But his eyes, they never stopped watching me. Sometimes I'd catch him staring like he was trying to say something, but the words never came. Until the day of the funeral. He'd insisted bizarrely on being dressed and prepared before he passed. He wanted the casket open. He wanted everyone gathered. The nurse said it was rare but not unheard of, that sometimes people knew when their time was coming and chose to face it, so we honored his wishes. That morning, the family and close friends gathered in the room. Lily held my hand. I stood beside the bed, trembling. Daniel opened his eyes, looked around. He looked right at Lily, then at me. Then he raised a shaking finger, pointed directly at me, and said the words that stopped time. "Don't trust her." Then he closed his eyes and died. No one said anything for a long time. After Daniel's body was wheeled away, after the crowd had thinned out and Lily had gone home with my sister, I sat alone in the church hallway, numb. The words echoed in my ears. Don't trust her. Why would he say that? Why me? What did he mean? I kept asking myself, replaying it over and over. Every detail, every expression, every whisper exchanged between Daniel and that woman, Vanessa. By evening, I noticed the shift. People were different. My sister, Laura, seemed hesitant, polite but cold. Daniel's brother, Tom, didn't hug me goodbye, just a stiff nod and a look I couldn't quite read. And Lily? Lily barely looked at me when she came home. She went straight to her room and locked the door. Something was breaking, and I didn't know how to stop it. The next day, messages started trickling in. Not condolences, questions. Claire, I just wanted to check in. Are you okay? Did Daniel ever talk to you about anything unusual? Hey, weird thing to ask, but did you two ever talk about the will? Then one of Daniel's old college friends texted, did he ever forgive you? Forgive me? Forgive me for what? I hadn't done anything wrong. Had I? I felt like I was going mad, like Daniel had planted a poisonous seed with his final breath, and now it was growing into vines of doubt that wrapped around everyone I loved. The worst moment came 3 days later. Lily and I sat at the kitchen table. The silence between us was unbearable. Finally, she pushed her cereal bowl away and said, "Why did Dad say that about you?" My throat tightened. "I don't know, sweetheart. I wish I did." She looked straight at me, the same eyes she'd inherited from Daniel. "Did you cheat on him?" I dropped my spoon. "What? Number, of course not." She paused, then whispered, "Vanessa came to my room." After the funeral, I stared at her. "She told me that you and Dad were going to separate, that he'd found out something before he died." I felt like the floor had been ripped from beneath me. "She's lying, Lily." "But why would she lie?" Lily's voice cracked. "Why would Dad say what he said if it wasn't true?" Tears stung my eyes. I wanted to scream, to tell her she was being manipulated, but she was 16, hurt, confused, and I was the one Daniel had condemned. That night, I couldn't sleep, so I went to Daniel's study, a place I hadn't entered since he got sick. I searched through drawers, boxes, old photo albums. I didn't know what I was looking for. Maybe some clue. Some proof that this wasn't what it seemed. Then I remembered the safe. Daniel had kept it in the back of the closet for years. He said it was just for insurance paperwork. I knew the code. Birthdays, our wedding date, easy combinations. And when I finally opened it, I found something that made my blood run cold. A letter, sealed, with my name written on the front in his handwriting. I sat on the floor, hands trembling, and read it. "Claire, if you're reading this, I'm already gone. I didn't plan for my last words to be so dramatic, but I needed to protect something, or rather someone. There's a truth I uncovered too late. About you. About Vanessa. I know you didn't betray me, but she wanted everyone to think you did. I made mistakes, Claire. I let her into my life. I thought she was just a friend, but she was after something else. I had to make sure you'd be strong, and sometimes strength comes when you're forced to fight. I'm sorry I hurt you. Please protect Lily. And yourself. You're stronger than you know. Daniel, I read it twice, 3 times. Each word crashed over me like a wave. He didn't mean to accuse me. He meant to warn me. Vanessa had lied, manipulated, set me up. But why? What did she want? The next morning I called Laura, my sister. I needed to tell someone about the letter, someone I still trusted. She came over without hesitation, held my hand while I read the words aloud, her face growing pale. Claire, she said, you need to be careful. I don't understand why Vanessa would do this. She was just Daniel's co-worker. I mean, they worked together for years. Laura's expression tightened. I always thought she was too close. Those words echoed in my mind all afternoon. Too close. That evening I drove to Vanessa's house. I didn't know what I was going to say. Her car was in the driveway. The porch light was on. When she opened the door, her smile faded quickly. Claire, she said carefully, are you okay? No, I said flatly. Can we talk? She hesitated, then stepped aside. Her house was pristine, too pristine, not a thing out of place. We sat in her living room. The silence buzzed with tension. I read Daniel's letter, I said. Vanessa blinked. What letter? The one he left for me. The one where he said you were manipulating things, that you were trying to turn everyone against me. Her lips thinned. Her eyes darkened. That's not true. I leaned in. He said he trusted me, that you wanted people to think I betrayed him. Why? For a moment I thought she might cry. But then she laughed, a low, bitter laugh that sent chills down my spine. You still don't get it, do you? What? I loved him, Claire. I loved him. And he didn't even notice. I froze. You think I was just the friendly co-worker? I was there every day when he came to work broken, when you were too busy being the perfect wife and mother to even see he was slipping away. You're insane. No, she hissed. I was in love, and he led me on, until he chose you. Again. My blood ran cold. You tried to destroy our family. She stood, her voice trembling. No, Claire. I wanted to save him. From you. You who took him for granted. You who thought you owned his heart just because you had a ring. I stood too, my fists clenched. He never loved you, Vanessa, and you know it. That's why you tried to twist his final words because that's all you had left. She looked at me with hollow eyes. He chose you, but I made sure his memory wouldn't. A week later, Daniel's lawyer gathered us in his office. Vanessa wasn't there. Just me, Lily, Laura, and Daniel's brother, Tom. The lawyer read through the paperwork. Daniel had left everything to me and Lily with one very specific clause. Should any third party attempt to contest this will or influence its execution through false testimony or character defamation, they forfeit any financial connection or inheritance. Tom raised an eyebrow. Laura squeezed my hand. I realized then Daniel had known this would happen. He'd prepared for Vanessa. That night, Lily came to my room. She stood in the doorway, hesitating. I'm sorry, Mom. I looked up. For not believing you, for thinking. She started to cry. I got up and pulled her into my arms. she whispered through tears. I was so scared. I thought I lost Dad and maybe you too. You never lost me, I said softly, and you never will. We stood there in silence, mother and daughter, both broken but healing. Daniel's words had hurt, but the truth behind them had brought us back together. Weeks passed. I tried to rebuild, to breathe again. One evening I got a letter in the mail, no return address, just one line inside. You'll never know how much he cried to me about you. No signature, no explanation, but I didn't need one. Vanessa, still trying to haunt me, but she didn't understand. Daniel had already left me something stronger than doubt, the truth. I looked at his photograph on the mantel and smiled through tears. You were trying to protect us, weren't you? And somehow, I knew the answer was yes. It had been 6 weeks since the funeral. 6 weeks of long nights and quiet mornings. Of waking up expecting to see him only to remember he was gone. On a cloudy Saturday afternoon, Lily and I visited his grave. She held my hand tightly, her grip telling me everything her words couldn't. The tombstone was simple, elegant, just the way Daniel would have wanted. Daniel Whitmore, beloved husband, father, and friend. I still hear him sometimes, Lily whispered. When I'm falling asleep, I hear him laughing. I nodded. Me too. We stood in silence, watching the wind stir the flowers someone had left behind. And then I spoke. Daniel, I know you were trying to protect us even when you couldn't say it out loud. I know your last words were twisted by grief and fear. But I also know the truth now. And I forgive you. Lily leaned into me, her voice cracking. I forgive you too, Dad. And somehow I felt lighter. The next day, while clearing out Daniel's closet, I found a box tucked in the back. Inside were things I hadn't seen in years. Old photographs, birthday cards, notes from Lily's childhood, our wedding vows, and at the very bottom, a small envelope with my name on it. Claire. Only open when you're ready. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a short letter. Claire, if you're reading this, I guess I didn't get to say goodbye properly. I know things haven't always been easy. I know I've made mistakes. Some I regret deeply. But if there's one thing I need you to remember, it's this. I loved you. I never stopped. In my final days, my mind wasn't clear. I was scared of dying, of leaving you and Lily, of what people would think of me. I said things I didn't mean. But that moment at the funeral, I wasn't pointing at you. I was pointing past you at Vanessa. I didn't trust her, Claire, and I didn't want her near you or Lily. Please forgive me for not making it clearer. But know this. You were the only home I ever had. With all my love, Daniel, tears poured down my face. I held the letter to my chest, sobbing quietly. Alone in the room we once shared. He hadn't betrayed me. He'd tried to warn me. He'd loved me, even in his final breath. A week later, I went to see Vanessa. She was moving out of town, her job lost, her reputation ruined. She opened the door, clearly surprised to see me. I got your last letter, I said, calm but steady. You deserve to know the truth, she replied. No, I said, you deserve to know the truth. He never loved you, Vanessa, and he never would have. You were a shadow in a life he had already filled. She didn't respond. I'm not here for revenge, I continued. I'm here to say goodbye. She blinked. Goodbye? I nodded. I'm letting go of the hurt, of the blame. You don't get to live in my head anymore. And with that, I walked away. And for the first time since Daniel's death, I felt free. Months passed. Lily and I built something new, different but strong. We started small traditions, Sunday walks, weekly letters to Daniel that we kept in a jar by the fireplace. We cried less, laughed more. I went back to work, found purpose again. The house, once so filled with shadows, started to feel like a home. And one night, sitting under the stars, Lily asked, "Do you think Dad knows we're okay now?" I smiled softly. "I think he always hoped we would be. We think the worst pain comes from betrayal, but sometimes it comes from misunderstanding, from not knowing the full story, until it's too late." My husband's last words broke me, but in time they became the key to everything I needed to know. He didn't say, "Don't trust her," to accuse me. He said it to protect me from someone who had been hiding in plain sight. And in the end, it wasn't the betrayal that shaped our story. It was the forgiveness. He loved her even in his last breath. She forgave him with her first. Justice, healing, love remembered. Sometimes it takes losing everything to rediscover what truly matters. If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us tell more stories that matter. And remember, families aren't built on perfection. They're built on truth, forgiveness, and the courage to begin again. Thanks for watching. Until next time.